Welcome to today's deep dive.
We are so thrilled to have you here with us.
We really are. Today we're embarking on this really profound philosophical and spiritual exploration.
And we are looking at a single piece of source material.
Right. It's an incredibly dense piece of writing.
Oh, absolutely.
We're looking at a composition by the 9th Sikh Guru, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji.
And just for some context, this specific excerpt is found within the primary scripture of Sikhism.
The Guru Granth Sahib.
Exactly. You can find it referenced on page 632.
And it's known as Sorat'h, 9th Mehla.
Meaning it's set to the musical measure of Rag Sorat'h.
Which is really interesting because that's a framework intended to evoke a very specific emotional resonance in the listener.
It sets the stage perfectly.
It does. So our mission for you today is to decode this brief but honestly staggering piece of writing.
We want to uncover its core universal formula.
We are going to see how Guru Tegh Bahadur utilizes 4 vivid extreme examples.
Ranging from, societal outcasts to trapped animals.
Yeah. And he uses them to illustrate a practical method for escaping suffering.
Escaping suffering, breaking the psychological and spiritual bonds that hold you back.
And ultimately finding what the text describes as the sanctuary of God.
It is a true privilege to unpack this with you.
I couldn't agree more.
What makes this particular composition so compelling is its sheer density. We are looking at a very short passage, yet it delivers this massive philosophical punch.
It really operates essentially as a masterclass.
It does, a masterclass on the nature of human redemption, the transformative power of memory, and the attainment of absolute fearlessness.
The author just doesn't waste a single syllable.
Not one. Every image presented is engineered to challenge our preconceived notions.
Our notions about our past mistakes, our ongoing suffering, and really the mechanics of divine grace. So let's jump right into the opening line.
Let's do it.
It begins with this direct, almost startling instruction. It says, "O mind, contemplate the sanctuary of God."
Notice how intimate and personal that framing is.
Right, this isn't some sweeping, booming command delivered from a mountaintop to a faceless crowd.
No, it's an internal directive.
The writer is addressing their own mind.
And by extension, prompting you, the reader, to turn your attention inward.
To really contemplate this concept of a sanctuary.
And immediately after setting up this internal premise, the composition provides its first specific example.
Ganika.
Right. Ganika is identified simply as a prostitute.
The text states that by meditating on him in remembrance, Ganika was saved.
And then, in the very next breath, a starkly different figure is introduced.
Dhroo.
Yes, Dhroo.
And by engaging in the exact same practice of meditating in remembrance, Dhroo is said to have become immortal.
Immortal and obtained a state of fearlessness. What's fascinating here is the brilliant juxtaposition employed right out of the gate.
It's quite a contrast.
Think about the extreme contrast between these two figures. On one hand, you have Ganika.
Right. Historically and socially, a prostitute is placed at the absolute margins of society.
Often judged, exploited, overlooked, or permanently cast aside by the moral majority.
And on the other hand, you have Dhroo.
A figure associated with the ultimate exalted states of human spiritual achievement.
Immortality and absolute fearlessness.
The philosophy pairs these completely opposite ends of the human spectrum to make a highly specific point to you.
It's actively demonstrating that this spiritual sanctuary, this avenue for salvation, is completely democratized, which is a radical departure from how our modern society operates.
Oh, completely.
We live in a culture deeply obsessed with scorekeeping and cancel culture.
Where your past mistakes or your social standing define your public identity indefinitely.
You're placed in a box, and escaping that box is nearly impossible.
But this philosophy completely bypasses that human tendency.
It implies that your societal rap sheet is entirely irrelevant to your spiritual potential.
Precisely. It strips away all the worldly labels.
So whether you are marginalized and heavily judged like Ganika,
or you are aiming for the exalted legendary heights of Dhroo,
neither your trauma nor your ambition disqualifies you.
The mechanism for transformation in both scenarios was identical.
Meditating in remembrance.
It fundamentally levels the playing field of the human experience.
Society creates the hierarchies.
And the sanctuary dissolves them.
Building on that dissolution of hierarchy, the composition follows up this pairing with a very direct challenge to the listener.
It's a powerful moment.
It states, "The Lord and Master removes suffering in this way. Why have you forgotten him?"
It's looking right at you.
holding up a mirror,
and essentially saying, I just showed you the extreme lows and the extreme highs of human existence.
and demonstrated that suffering is removed in both cases through this singular method.
So why are you forgetting to utilize it?
It frames our suffering not as a permanent condition, but as a simple lapse in memory.
It represents a massive paradigm shift,
It moves the burden of suffering away from being this unavoidable external punishment
handed down by some wrathful universe.
to being the natural consequence of simple forgetfulness.
You are suffering because you have forgotten how to access the sanctuary.
Not because the doors of the sanctuary have been locked to keep you out.
The key is in your pocket.
You've just forgotten it's there. Okay,
Oh.
let's unpack this next section, because the composition makes a major narrative pivot right here.
It really does shift gears.
We move completely away from the human examples of Ganika and Dhroo.
And we are suddenly thrust into the raw imagery of the animal kingdom.
We're introduced to the narrative of Gaj
The elephant,
and Garee.
the crocodile.
The scenario paints a picture of an elephant trapped in the jaws of a crocodile.
Yet it states that as soon as the elephant took to the protective sanctuary of the Lord,
He escaped from the crocodile.
this specific imagery is deeply symbolic and strategically chosen.
Because an elephant is a creature of immense, almost unparalleled strength and power while on land.
Exactly. But when an elephant is caught by a crocodile, it's dragged into the water.
And water is an environment where the elephant's terrestrial strength, its massive weight, and its sheer power
Are rendered utterly useless.
The aquatic predator holds the absolute upper hand
But notice how the divine is described here.
as the ocean of mercy.
This is a crucial detail. The elephant finds safety from a lethal aquatic predator not by fighting the water.
But by surrendering to a much greater overarching ocean of mercy. I want to ground that metaphor for a second because it translates so perfectly to modern life.
It's very relatable.
Imagine a highly capable professional today. They are a powerhouse in their career, leading teams, making decisions.
That is the elephant on solid ground.
But perhaps behind closed doors, they are dealing with a crippling addiction, a toxic relationship, or profound anxiety.
That is the water.
And their crocodile is dragging them under.
All of their professional competence, their wealth, their intelligence,
The terrestrial strength.
it just doesn't save them in that environment. They are trapped. That is an excellent modern parallel. The crocodile represents whatever forces drag you out of your element and into a space of powerlessness.
But before we get to the mechanics of the escape, the composition introduces a vital concept.
It asks, how much can I describe the glorious praises of the name?
To understand this, we need to recognize that name translates to the divine name.
Or the fundamental identity and presence of the divine.
It's the ultimate reality beneath the surface of our worldly illusions.
Right, and after introducing the name, it makes a definitive declaration.
Whoever chants the Lord's name, his bonds are broken.
It doesn't say the bonds are loosened.
It says they are broken, shattered.
But how does that actually play out? We're talking about chanting and remembrance, but how does focusing on the name practically break the jaws of the crocodile for someone today?
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
the breaking of bonds isn't presented as a magical spell.
Right.
It's a profound cognitive and spiritual shift. When you are caught by your personal crocodile,
Let's say it's severe anxiety.
your entire psychological focus is locked onto the predator. You are obsessed with the pain, the fear, the struggle, and the lack of control. By engaging in the remembrance of the name, you are intentionally shifting your anchor,
You stop pouring your energy into the struggle against the crocodile.
which only exhausts you further.
And instead, you align your consciousness with the vastness of that ocean of mercy.
The physical or psychological struggle isn't what frees you.
The radical shift in focus is what causes the bonds to lose their power over your mind.
It's essentially acknowledging that you cannot always fight your way out of a trap using brute force.
Especially when you are completely out of your depth in the crocodile's domain.
The more you thrash, the deeper you sink.
Yeah.
The solution requires tapping into a completely different frequency,
And that realization paves the way perfectly to the fourth and final example in the text.
which is arguably the most dramatic of them all. Guru Tegh Bahadur introduces a historical figure named aTal.
The composition is blunt about aTal's character.
It describes him as a sinner who was known throughout the world.
We're not talking about a guy who told a few white lies.
We're talking about global notoriety for a lifetime of severe misdeeds.
That level of notoriety is highly significant to the philosophy being presented.
Being a sinner known throughout the world implies a vast accumulation of heavy karmic baggage.
It implies a reputation that is so universally recognized and deeply entrenched that escaping it would seem entirely impossible.
By any human standard of justice, at least.
But the composition highlights a critical, almost unbelievable detail about his story.
It asserts that despite being this globally recognized, notorious sinner, aTal was redeemed in an instant. It's easy to look at extreme examples like a legendary saint or a world-famous sinner.
But how does this apply to the average person whose sins are just everyday flaws?
If someone with a globally terrible reputation is saved in the blink of an eye, what does that mean for the listener?
The listener carrying around the quiet guilt of a failed marriage.
A blown career opportunity or a betrayal of a friend?
It means that the human timeline of punishment and redemption is an illusion.
In our human frameworks, we operate on a ledger system.
We believe that a lifetime of mistakes requires a lifetime of punishment.
Or at the very least, decades of grueling, arduous penance to balance the scales.
If you build a terrible reputation over 20 years, society dictates that it will take you 20 years of perfect behavior to clear your name.
But this philosophy completely dismantles that transactional mindset.
It proposes that the mechanics of divine sanctuary do not adhere to human clocks or human ledgers.
True redemption isn't earned through a proportional sentence of suffering.
It is actualized in a fraction of a second the moment genuine, pure remembrance occurs.
The instant the mind truly turns to the sanctuary, the past ceases to be an anchor. Here's where it gets really interesting.
After dismantling our concepts of time and punishment, the composition wraps up with a final definitive instruction from Nanak.
It says Nanak, remember the Chintamani.
Now, for a modern audience, we really need to decode that term.
The text itself offers a definition, describing the Chintamani as the jewel which fulfills all desires.
Yes, the Chintamani is a vital concept in Eastern philosophical traditions.
It translates literally to a wish-fulfilling gem or jewel.
But it shouldn't be misunderstood as a magical genie granting superficial wishes for wealth or power.
Conceptually, it represents the touchstone of absolute spiritual perfection.
Divine grace and the ultimate truth that satisfies the deepest, truest yearning of the human soul.
Which is liberation from suffering.
By instructing you to remember the Chintamani, the composition is providing you with the ultimate practical focal point for the meditation and remembrance we've been discussing since the opening line.
But how does a busy person today actually practice this?
It's a great question.
When you're stuck in traffic, stressed about a mortgage, or dealing with a health crisis, how do you remember the wish-fulfilling jewel?
It requires training the mind to interrupt its default stress responses.
When the mortgage stress hits or the health crisis looms,
When the crocodile bites down.
your default is panic.
Remembering the Chintamani means cultivating a daily habitual practice of pausing and anchoring your mind to the divine presence.
Then,
Rather than anchoring to the crisis, it is a deliberate, conscious returning to the sanctuary.
it's reminding yourself that beneath the turbulent waves of your daily life, the ocean of mercy remains undisturbed.
The more you practice shifting your focus to that jewel, the less power the daily crocodiles have over your baseline state of mind.
And the composition doesn't just leave you with this challenging instruction.
It pairs it with a massive, universally applicable promise.
It states that if you remember this jewel, this Chintamani, you too shall be carried across and saved.
It brings the entire ancient text right into your living room.
It isn't just a historical recounting of Ganika or Dhroo or the elephant or aTal.
It is speaking directly to you today.
If you can learn to focus on this internal, wish-fulfilling jewel, you'll be carried across what is often called the world ocean.
You will survive your personal crocodiles. You will shed whatever marginalizing label society has slapped on you.
And you will find liberation.
It is the ultimate synthesis of the entire philosophy.
It takes all of these desperate, chaotic, extreme threads of human and worldly experience and weaves them together into one cohesive, unbreakable guarantee.
It removes all the exceptions. There is no "you can be saved unless."
It is a blanket statement of universal access to grace. Let's actually take a moment to look back at the sheer variety of the journey this composition just took us on.
Because it is wild when you view it from a bird's-eye perspective.
We started at the fringes of human society with a marginalized prostitute.
We then jump to a figure who achieved complete immortality and fearlessness.
From there, we entirely shifted gears to the wilderness of the animal kingdom to watch a powerful elephant escape the deadly aquatic jaws of a crocodile.
And finally, we examine the life of a globally recognized, notorious sinner.
4 totally distinct, incredibly dramatic scenarios encompassing the entirety of the conscious experience.
Yet the text reveals that all 4 of them share the exact same solution to their profound suffering.
Seeking that internal sanctuary and remembering the name.
The formula never wavers, regardless of the severity or the nature of the problem. This raises an important question for you as you reflect on the material we've covered in this deep dive.
The composition is ultimately serving as a manual for shedding fear and breaking bonds.
It invites you to critically evaluate what bonds you might be actively, though perhaps unconsciously, holding on to right now.
What is the crocodile currently pulling you under the water?
Is it a toxic work environment, a destructive habit, or a deep-seated fear of failure?
What is the worldly reputation similar to Ajamal's that you feel is rigidly defining your worth and limiting your future?
The philosophy here is challenging you to recognize that while those bonds feel incredibly real and heavy, the method to break them is universally accessible.
It is stunningly simple in its theoretical execution, even if it requires profound discipline and practice. It really forces you to evaluate the invisible weight you are choosing to carry around every single day.
It does.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with, something to really mull over on your own as you step away from this deep dive and back into the noise of your life.
We have just explored a philosophical framework that claims that by simply remembering the Chintamani,
This internal divine jewel that fulfills the soul's ultimate desires.
you can be safely carried across the treacherous, chaotic world ocean.
And perhaps most shockingly, it claims that even the world's greatest, most notorious sinner with a lifetime of heavy karmic debt was saved in an instant.
Just like that.
So I want you to ask yourself, if true redemption and the shattering of our deepest, most painful bonds can truly happen in a single, instantaneous blink of an eye through a simple shift in focus,
Does the heavy, crushing weight of our past actually exist in the permanent way we think it does?
or is all of our ongoing daily suffering merely the result of having forgotten how quickly we are allowed to let it go?